Hi everyone. By the end of this class, you'll learn how to ask for favors using modals, if clauses, and gerunds. The main goal is to learn how to make requests in different forms. So we all make requests to our friends, family members, as well as our manager at work. And the way that we make this request tends to change depending on how we're addressing the person and who we're addressing, right? And the level of confidence that you have with the person. So, for example, if you're asking a very close friend to lend you $5, usually you'll make the request by simply saying, "Can I borrow $5? I'll pay you back tomorrow." However, if you're asking your manager to give you an extra day off, you'll typically ask by saying, "I wonder if I could take an extra day off." And the reason is simple. It's because it's not what you say, but how you say it. It's more likely that if you ask in a very polite manner, you'll get what you want. In certain cases, of course. So that's what we're going to learn today. So let me introduce some structure. This topic, by the way, it's quite simple. What we want to do is we want to use modals, we want to use if clauses and gerunds. So just let me point out what those are. Just a quick reminder, you're probably familiar with this already. But what are modals? Models are those modal verbs that you see there: can, could, and also would, right? And if clauses, well, those are simply whenever you see "do you mind if," right? Whenever you see this word, that's what we refer to an if clause. And then the last thing that we want to learn there is how to use gerunds to make this kind of request. And so that's that example that you see there. Would you mind letting me use your laptop? Okay. And what we mean by this is that we're going to use a gerund, right? So would you mind? After would you mind, um, we're going to have to use a gerund. And I'm going to quickly point that out here in a second. So let me just quickly point out the examples that we see here. So as you can see, on the left, we see that if I use the expression, "Can I borrow your pencil?" That is something that I will typically ask a friend, someone that I'm very close to, right? So it's an informal way. It's not rude, by the way. It's simply the other ways to ask are just a bit more polite. Can I borrow your pencil? Could you lend me a jacket? Is it okay if I use your phone? Do you mind if I use your CD burner? Would it be okay if I picked it up on Friday night? Would you mind if I borrow your digital camera? Would you mind letting me use your laptop? I wonder if I could borrow some money. And finally, I was wondering if you mind lending me your car. So again, these are just different ways that you can ask for things. And what we want to learn today is how to use all of these different ways, how to use um, modals, if clauses, and gerunds to make requests, right? So what I will do is I will give you a situation. And so for today's class, the situation is that you want to borrow $20 from a friend. Okay, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna make the request using all of the different forms that you see there, right? It's not to say that you're gonna use that with the friend. Usually with the friend, someone that's kind of close to you or very close to you, it all depends. You will typically just say, "Hey, can I borrow $20 from you?" Right? Um, but as I mentioned previously, if you are asking your boss for an extra day off, usually you'll try to find a more polite way to ask for that. So let's do the example. How are we going to do this? So well, what's the um, less formal way of doing it? Well, you can say, "Can I borrow $20?" That's quite simple, right? The other way could be, "Could you lend me $20?" Right? So I'm just notice that I'm using the modal verbs, the words that are in that are grayed out. That's what I'm using. Another way could be, is it okay if I borrow $20? All right. And what could be another way? Well, we can say, do you mind if I borrow $20? Okay. Would it be okay if I borrow $20? And in this case, I quickly want to point out, I'm not sure if you've noticed, but in this case, what we did is we changed the verb to the past, as you can see there. And the reason is quite simple. Simply, whenever we make this kind of request, remember that what we're trying to do is we're trying to sound more polite. So by us changing the verb to the past, this makes that request even more polite, right? Now, this doesn't mean that you cannot make the request without changing that verb to the past. You can do that if you want. So you could say, would it be okay if I borrow $20? You don't necessarily need to change that to the past. However, we're learning that we're going to change it to the past in order to sound more polite, right? What will be another way to say this? Well, we can say, um, would you mind if I borrow $20? That's another way of saying it. And I want you to pay special attention to the next expression, would you mind lending me $20? So in this case, whenever you see would you mind, the expression would you mind without the if, right? Whenever you see the expression would you mind, this is always going to follow a gerund. So it's always going to follow a gerund. Would you mind lending me $20? The example that we see in this little chart is would you mind letting me use your laptop, as you can see. So we had to change the verb let to a gerund. And let me just point out the other two examples there. So those would be, I wonder if I could borrow $20, and I was wondering if you mind lending me $20. Okay, and as you can see, I also highlighted this in red because um, after we see the word mind or the verb mind, then this is going to follow a gerund. What I would like for you to do is to make requests with the modals, the if clauses, and the gerunds. So let's say, for example, I gave you, these are all situations. Let me just point out that these are situations. Okay? Could you lend me some money for a soda? Is it okay if you lend me some money for a soda? Right? This is the situation, and what I would like for you to do is to use all of these modal verbs and all of those if clauses and all of those gerunds that you can see there in order to make those requests. The idea here is to practice.